Hi, Chris here from Truly Holistic. This video is going to be about what need to do when somebody is having a heart attack. Okay, so an emergency situation. Okay, and we're going to look at the fundamentals of why someone has a heart attack, what we need to do immediately when somebody's having a heart attack, and also things that we need to put in place is for prevention. Obviously, prevention is always the best measure. But we need to understand why someone's having a heart attack. So we're going to go into detail in regards to this. Now, things to do. Okay, if somebody is in an emergency situation, having a heart attack, obviously you want to call an ambulance, call for emergencies help to come. But what do you do in the meantime? One thing you got to understand that if somebody's having a heart attack, that the heart muscle is not getting enough oxygen to it, and if they are having a myocardial infarction, which means a tissue of the heart is actually dying because it's being starved of oxygen and blood flow, because the blood flow is what gets the oxygen to the heart. Okay, so quite often these are getting an obstruction of that flow of that blood, and the blood itself is going to be thick, so the flow is not very good. So what something we can do is in the meantime, while we're waiting for an ambulance, we can do measures to try and thin the blood. Uh, Cardiologists, including alternative cardiologists, will recommend taking aspirin. And aspirin is white willow bark, okay, or salicylic acid, which is that compound that comes from the herb white willow bark, or the bark itself, of course. And that's how they make aspirin. Okay, and why do they recommend taking aspirin? Because aspirin is an anticoagulant. Okay, and that means it thins the blood. Okay, but one thing that doesn't get explained to people is that really why aspirin thins the blood is because it's an anti-inflammatory. Okay, aspirin is an anti-inflammatory, and a lot of people forget that about aspirin. They look at your conventional anti-inflammatory medications, and then there's aspirin, what thins the blood. But what the common thread in all this is that if your blood is thick, it's inflamed. Okay? If your blood is thin, then it's an anti-inflammatory state. So the whole thing we need to understand is that why our blood is thick is because our blood is inflamed. Okay, so this comes back to, again, the causation of this is inflammation. Okay, and inflammation is a cause of most diseases on a physical level. Okay, obviously, me being a quantum energy healer, we get into the energy components of everything, but the manifestation in the physical body is inflammation that causes problems. So that's why aspirin's a good idea, and other anti-inflammatories are a good idea, because if the blood is thick, that's inflamed, and we need more anti-inflammatories. So if you're in that situation, or a loved one's having a heart attack, you're waiting for that and to save that person's life, okay? Because time is of the essence in this particular scenario. Aspirin is, again, I'll put this disclaimer up. I'm not a medical doctor, but aspirin is a very good medication to take in that scenario, that situation, because of its anti-inflammatory effect. Now, another thing you can think about is getting the person grounded. Okay, and there's good scientific evidence showing that when they've put a person's blood under a microscope, that it shows that when you take somebody's blood that has not been grounded, and then you ground that person for, say, 20 minutes, half an hour, and then you take another sample of their blood, that the red blood cells, the chemistry of the blood is completely different. So the blood, when its person is not grounded, so in an inflamed state, the red blood cells are stacked on top of each other like poker chips. Okay, and why they do that is they're all trying to connect with the red blood cell that has the negative ionization to it. okay? And negative ionization is anti-inflammatory. Positive ionization, when we come into the body looking at an electrical current, which really the body is more electrical than it is chemical, is that it wants to be in the anti-inflammatory state. And that anti-inflammatory state is negative ionization. All of a sudden you ground that person and ground their blood, then all of a sudden all those red blood cells get a negative charge or negative ionization charge to them, and therefore they disperse out because they don't need to look for that negative ionization because they're all now grounded and they're all negatively ionized. So and there's a lot of great research to show that. And so try and get the person grounded, okay? Like get their feet touching the ground, get their bare skin touching the earth in some way. There's a lot of great technology in regards to grounding technologies, which we'll talk a bit about later in the video. Another thing is magnesium, and not necessarily taking magnesium supplement because it will take too long to take effect, but magnesium oil, so in the form of magnesium chloride, or even getting someone into an Epsom salt bath, and that's the form of magnesium sulfate. And why this is key is doing it transdermally is more bioavailable to the body, and it absorbs in within seconds or minutes, really, to be honest, into the tissue, the smooth muscle tissue. And remember that your cardiovascular system is made up of tubing, okay? And it's made out of smooth muscle tissue. And what's the most important muscle in your heart? It's not your bicep, it's your heart, okay? Most important muscle there is, your heart. And magnesium, what it does is it keeps the smooth muscle tissue and any muscle supple and in a relaxed state, and it dilates the blood vessels, okay? And when you dilate all the blood vessels, you're going to allow more oxygen to get to the heart, okay? And as we said, what causes a heart attack is the heart is being starved of oxygen because the blood is too thick and there's obstruction, not allowing enough blood flow to get to the heart. So by dilating the blood vessels, and therefore allowing more blood flow to get to the heart, more oxygen to get to the heart, and thinning the blood to allow more flow of the blood to get the oxygen to the heart, is key in a moment when somebody's having a heart attack. When in the next seconds, minutes, could mean that person living or dying. Okay, so the other things that you immediately need to look at. Okay, now let's look at the prevention. Okay, so obviously we said initially at the start of this movie that it's all about inflammation. It's about removing inflammation. It's not focusing on cholesterol. Cholesterol is a number. The body sends cholesterol to an area to heal it and patch it up. So is it an indicator that there's maybe damage within the endothelial cells, which are the lining of your smooth muscle tissue, which makes up your cardiovascular system and your arteries and so on? Now, the amount of cholesterol can be a marker that to know there's something not going right there. But is cholesterol the problem? No, it's not. Cholesterol is there to patch up the problem, and if you don't remove the cause of the problem, then inflammation will continually be produced and sent there, and that may eventually be part of the problem of occluding or blocking that artery, and therefore stopping sufficient blood flow to get to the heart, and therefore causing a myocardial infarction, a heart attack. But cholesterol's not the problem here. It's inflammation is causing a problem there, okay? And we need to find out what is causing the inflammation. So in prevention, the key is we need to look at omega-3, 6, and 9 balance, okay? And this is to do with oils and fats, okay? Fats play such an important role in regards to cardiovascular health, okay? Not just in a bad way, okay? Fats are essential for cardiovascular health, okay? And that balance is key because when we look at omega-3, okay, oils, they contain anti-inflammatory compounds, molecules, okay? And then the omega-6 are pro-inflammatory. And the body, when you fall over and you twist your ankle, okay, to heal that area up, you need inflammation to help heal that part up. But if you've got chronic inflammation all the time because of bad diet, bad life choices, all these things, not knowing the full picture of what your body requires as fuel sources to maintain this machine to work properly, then we can get in problems with this, and we consume too much omega-6 and not enough omega-3, and that balances off where we're more in an inflamed state than we are in an anti-inflammatory state. Okay, so that is the key. We need to balance that. The ratio really needs to be 1 omega-3 to at least 3 or 4 omega-6. We don't want those omega-6 ratio getting up to that, like 1 to 6, 1 to 10, 1 to 15, 1 to 20. I tell you, a majority of people, the population out there, are 1 to 10 at least, or even 115. I've had people 1 to 20, 1 to 25 that I've found with my dowsing here at Truly Holistic of the ratio. They're highly inflamed, okay? Because it's very easy to get omega-6 sources in the diet, in our lifestyle, the way that we're living today. And we really need to keep a good eye and focus on how much omega-6 we're consuming and how much omega-3 we're consuming. This is where, supplementation of fish oil and flaxseed oil, chia seeds, hemp seed, all these sorts of things is quite vital to be aware of. And even natural produce can still keep this balance not in the right ratio. And as I say, there are many sources of omega-6 and not so much about omega-3. So therefore, we need to really be focusing on that. We obviously need to have an anti-inflammatory diet. So we've just talked a bit about that in regards to the omega-3 omega-6 ratio. But getting herbs in the diet, like ginger, turmeric, all these things are great natural anti-inflammatory compounds. And also eating a whole foods diet, because when we get into processed foods and high hydrogenated oils that have been processed, then we are consuming a diet that is more inflammatory instead of anti-inflammatory. We need to eat as many foods that are in nature and least very not processed much. These are anti-inflammatory in their original state, but the way we're processing it, the way we're changing these foods into a more processed form, then the more inflammatory it is going to be to the body. Grounding technology, as I said, you can get bed sheets that have got silver yarn running through it, and you just connect it to the wall, because the bottom prong is the grounding prong. And if you know that your like a majority of houses are earthed, and they have to be done that for the electrical system, electrical wiring within the house. Same thing applies to the body. And you connect that plug into the socket, and you sleep. You don't have to change your behavior whatsoever. You sleep like you naturally do on your bed. All you're doing is you're using this type of technology, this sheet that's got silver yarn through it, and all of a sudden that will feed this negative ionization into the body while you're sleeping, putting you into anti-inflammatory state. And there's many other technologies that these people are doing as well. These mats that you can put your feet on while you're watching TV or at the computer. And also being aware of within your home that a lot of the times we're never connected to the earth, and we're never grounded. And we're around computers, we're around dryers and TVs and like, which are putting out positive ionization. And and we're a closed circuit at that point, and we're just accumulating positive ionization. All of a sudden, when we ground ourselves and connect ourselves to the earth, whether that's through technology or touching the surface of the earth with our bare feet, then all of a sudden we become an open circuit. We can release all that positive ionization and then bring in all the negative ionization to put us back into an anti-inflammatory state, which I believe is a better way of really treating people with inflamed blood, which is thick blood. With the medical system, we're putting people on medications like Coumadin or warfarin, which very powerful anticoagulant, which thins the blood. But you know, you have to regularly get blood tests because you don't want to go too thin, because all of a sudden, especially a lot of the people that have got thick blood are elderly people. You know, they have all these other morbidities and illnesses that increase the risk of falls and those sorts of things. And then if your blood's too thin, you fall, then you suffer with a hemorrhage and you bleed, then that can kill you as well. So there are a lot of downsides to doing it with medications and thinning the blood, when really, if we just got back to the basic principles of why we're inflamed and getting back into this natural state of being connected to the earth, which we should be all the time anyway, then we don't need that medication. You know, again, it's just putting a band-aid approach on something that I don't think the whole system is really addressing. We're not addressing the causes, are we? And obviously with prevention, as I said, right at the time of somebody's having a heart attack, we have to discuss about magnesium. The mineral magnesium is the most important mineral for the cardiovascular system and for the heart, more important than potassium. Again, through the mainstream medical protocols and paradigm, it's all about this imbalance or this ratio balance of potassium with sodium, and I understand that it does have its place, but there's not enough emphasis on the mineral magnesium and the ratio of magnesium with calcium. And a lot of diseases, just like where we see inflammation being a problem with a lot of diseases, calcium as well. The mineral calcium is a big problem, because calcium stiffens and hardens the smooth muscle tissue within the body, and this causes a lot of problems. You know, high blood pressure and all these other symptoms that are really true indicators of the cardiovascular system not working correctly can be because of too much calcium and not enough magnesium. Arrhythmias, you know, where the heart rate is out of control, it's not in sinus rhythm, and that's because of a deficiency of magnesium. Okay, so magnesium is vital for the heart, and you know, as I said, the tubing of the cardiovascular system is all smooth muscle tissue, and magnesium keeps that smooth muscle tissue supple and soft and doesn't harden, so it helps with relieving or reducing blood pressure, and it stops people going into arrhythmias, keeps your heart rate in sinus rhythm, and it keeps them open and dilated, which allows correct blood flow to occur. So therefore, no area of the body is getting starved of oxygen. So we need to look at that balance as well. And there's so much emphasis on people, calcium, 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 calcium. It should be magnesium instead of calcium. Magnesium is more vital. They're both alkaline minerals, but there is a massive deficiency in regards to magnesium. And most health problems and health concerns, and magnesium, and getting onto magnesium oil, especially putting it on your skin transdermally instead of taking a supplement, because you're bypassing all the digestive tract. You'll be able to absorb more of it and faster, and it's a better way of getting your magnesium stores back up. And because the majority of people out there too much calcium and not enough magnesium, and we need to really balance out that calcium. And when we look at the elderly today, it's that the evidence of the elderly today, a lot of their health problems is of too much calcium within the body, and not enough magnesium. It's clear to see, and especially in cardiovascular health. So I hope you really enjoyed this video and got some information from this in regards to, you know, if anyone or a loved one's in a situation and you're present and someone's having a heart attack, and you know, obviously you've run for emergency help for an ambulance and so on, but to help them out in that current situation, which could mean life or death. And I hope you get gain some information with that, and also some things to put into your daily life to prevent you or a loved one being in that situation in regards of having a heart attack or cardiovascular problems. Thank you.